I'm sliding in here today because we got another story that I want to cover this crazy week, and it's got pushed down in like the priorities because we had a messy holiday. We had Black Friday, and I was paying more attention to Super Sentai dying because, that hits me right in my childhood. All right, so this scandal was entirely caused and then brushed over by Amazon, and it happened basically yesterday over the holiday weekend, and it was mostly noticed by the gay community and the anime community, and there was a nice crossover slice of pie there. So what happened here was, all right, so about 9 months ago, I did this video talking about this crazy plan that Amazon had come up with that they had just activated, and they were cooking up this evil plot to start using AI voice algorithms to dub their content instead of paying human voice actors who have souls and families to feed. Now, 9 months ago, they immediately started rolling out these crappy dubs of Spanish language documentaries in English and vice versa, but no one really noticed or cared at the time because I'm not sure if anyone's too into watching crazy Spanish documentaries on Amazon Prime, but yeah, they were pretty obscure, mostly harmless conspiracy theory coded stuff about how Machu Picchu was an alien landing pad or how Don Quixote could have been a real guy who was maybe related to Jesus. But I was concerned that they were eventually planning to use this on anime, and I think that was always the core implication and main goal of the program, to make a bunch of money doing crappy AI dubs of anime. Anyway, 9 months went by, and I naively thought that they were just fear-mongering with that, and that Amazon wouldn't be stupid enough to do it.
Marvin, you sick, ugly bastard.
But over this weekend, while everyone was distracted by Thanksgiving, they finally did it, and it became a huge scandal, a super crisis in the anime community, and it didn't help that the first show that everyone noticed them doing it on was Banana Fish, a legendary gay romance anime that people have been requesting a dub for years. Now, I haven't seen it, but the quick summary is that it's a gay action thriller about two guys in the 1980s trying to stop a New York drug conspiracy. And Banana Fish mostly became the headline here because this anime was a splash hit back when it first debuted, and I remember it was one of the first anime that Prime had exclusive rights to back in the day. And it just happened to be that it was very scandalous that they had exclusive rights to it and they didn't dub it. They were hoarding the show, not dubbing it, and now they finally dub it, but they did it in such a crappy and hostile way that everyone's pissed at them.
この番組は予覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Anyway, Banana Fish unfortunately wasn't the only show to suffer, as Amazon then also over this weekend rolled out bad AI dubs of classic anime such as Vinland Saga and No Game No Life, which is ironic because those two shows have actually been 100% properly dubbed. No Game No Life, I think, was dubbed by Aniplex when it first came out, and Vinland Saga has been dubbed twice. It was originally dubbed by Sentai Filmworks, and then a second time by Netflix, who weirdly didn't want to use the first dub and chose to redub it themselves for whatever hostile or money-grubbing reason. I guess they have to pay the old actors when they use the old dub. But anyway, the point is that even when the dub was available, Amazon still wouldn't do the right thing, because Amazon is just all about doing the cheapest shit to check off a box and not delivering the consumer the actual properly dubbed English product that they were trying to buy. All these AI dubs are completely dubious, out of sync, badly edited, and I'm honestly curious, since it is this bad, since it did turn out this bad, was there any quality control here whatsoever, or did some executive in an office just push a button to release all this slop into the world? Now, before we get deep into it, I'm a person who's pretty mixed on dubs, and because, in my opinion, there's a pretty big spectrum between getting a good dub and a crappy dub, a lot of it comes down to personal preference and the quality and the direction of the dub. We also used to have some amazing joke dubs back in the day in the 1990s. That's sort of become a lost art, but I have fond memories of Samurai Pizza Cats and Duel Masters and some other goofy joke dubs that came out of my childhood. Those kind of shows mostly died off because of the good cultural change of anime being taken more seriously. I wouldn't say in terms of the best dubs, Cowboy Bebop usually goes down among the best of all time. I also have strong nostalgia for the dub version of Gundam Wing, which kept its very philosophical Shakespearean tone, although I've noticed to modern viewers that it sums off a little super weird out of context. Anyway, then on the other hand, we've gotten a wide variety of insanely bad dubs from various different countries and companies that speak English but not really that well. I guess my personal metric for if I prefer a dub or not to the original subs comes down to the quality of the translation and if the show is set in Japan or not. If a show is set in Tokyo, or if it's a samurai show or something that has very complicated traditional Japanese concepts, I'd definitely rather be watching that in Japanese. But on the other hand, like if a show is set in like the Western world or like Europe, like Full Metal Alchemist and like certain Gundam series, I definitely prefer watching those in English. I do kind of think Bandai left money on the table by never dubbing Turn A or Gundam X. And yeah, I feel like by and large, nowadays, companies are pretty good about dubbing most of the big mainstream anime that people really care about. I've got nothing against Crunchyroll in terms of their dubs, but they seem like they've also been considering eyeing AI to cut costs. And after costs, they end up cutting quality. Like, they've already got some big pushback from cheaping out with AI subtitles. I don't think they'd be crazy enough to pull an AI dubbing stunt like Prime did, because especially how bad the publicity has gone down for Prime doing it this week. But I also think Crunchyroll left money on the table by not dubbing Bocchi the Rock, which is huge in Asia but never took off here because they just didn't make it accessible enough to English audiences. And like, it's a joke show. You kind of need to see those jokes like to get the jokes. I was shocked this year that they dubbed Tojima Wants to Be a Common Writer. Like, I thought that had no chance considering how culturally Japanese it was. So that really like surprised me. All right, so next up, I want to focus on Netflix a second. Netflix got some grief for me for dropping the ball with their dubs this year. Now, I will say that they did some great jobs dubbing shows like Pluto and Sakamoto Days. But on the other hand, Netflix got a ton of major anime this year, and they didn't dub most of it. Like, they didn't dub the Kinnikuman remake or the Yaiba remake. They did somehow dub Time Patrol Bonbon, which is like another really obscure one. I'm guessing they only dubbed that show because it's semi-educational. I want to say the biggest show Netflix didn't dub was Orb, The Movements of Earth, a pretty dramatic show about scientists in the 15th century Europe trying to like figure out the secrets of astronomy and the universe while the religious state tries to kill them for heresy. I super wanted to see that show, but because it was set in Europe and because they didn't dub it, I never watched it. And that one hit me really hard because I do think that if a show is set in Europe or the United States, it should be dubbed. Like Full Metal Alchemist has an awesome dub, and Banana Fish is set in the US, which is why so many people want that dubbed into English. And yeah, speaking of Banana Fish, let's get back to Prime. So yeah, Prime this year, they haven't dubbed a ton of anime, but I'll at least give them some credit for dubbing their biggest catches. Like, I've been extremely pleased with their dub of Shin Evangelion 3+1, which brought back most of the ADV cast, and their recent dub of Gundam G Quax was acceptable. And I super appreciated that they released it as a simuldub with the Japanese TV broadcast. I'm also currently watching Sanda right now for Christmas, and that's pretty funny. Now, I will probably throw out that the worst recent dub Amazon has done that I can remember was probably City. City is a spiritual successor to Azumanga Daioh by the same mangaka. The dub is overall alright, and they did translate a few of the craziest jokes into English really well. I want to say City is a decent dub, except for the last episode. In the last episode, they completely dropped the ball because there's this nonsense musical number that stretches through almost the entire episode, and despite the lyrics not really being musical, the VAs in the Japanese version just kind of sing-songy their dialogue in a kind of off-tony way. The dub completely floundered that last episode by not doing it. Like, if you watch the dub, they really only dub like the first 3 minutes of content before the songs start, and then they completely just fail and drop the ball. And also, come to think of it, did the Panty and Stocking musical episode dub their songs? Anyway, Prime's got kind of a spotty track record behind them. I feel like Prime's dubbing scene needs like some more quality control. But now this AI scandal has really put them in the hot seat, and the American voice acting community is completely pissed. So yeah, back to covering the AI scandal. Over the weekend, the news of the bad Banana Fish dub and the No Game, No Life and the Vinland Saga dubs, like that news and the reaction to that has spread like a fire throughout the community, with various big names in the voice acting world blowing their lid over the whole debacle. Jack Sapford's pointed out that Banana Fish had over 50 different voice acting roles, so that was over 50 American jobs that the millionaires at Amazon just wholesale ignored to save a buck. We got a similar take from former Funimation VA Damian Mills, making a headline over at Comic Book Resources because he boldly tweeted that the move was disrespectful as hell and that he was canceling his Prime account because if Prime won't pay him, why should he pay Prime? And then finally, there was a big statement from the National Association of Voice Actors condemning the move and that it should be completely condemned for its lack of understanding, lack of emotion, skill, and competence from Amazon, who just did this without asking if anyone even wanted it. Now today, Tuesday, December 2nd, Amazon sort of gave in. People breathed a sigh of relief as they finally pulled down these first 3 AI dubs for Banana Fish and the other 2 shows. But I want to point out that they only did this in America because they're afraid of American backlash. And I'm hearing on the down low that the dubs are still up in other countries like Mexico. I'm curious if any of you guys are out there in other countries and you have Amazon Prime. Can you still see any of these AI dubs? I'm really curious how many countries actually pulled them down or if it was just the USA. There's still a vocal community online hoping that Amazon will do the right thing here and do a proper dub of Banana Fish, maybe to apologize for the scandal, but I think that's overall wishful thinking. I think the AI dub operation Amazon has put together is just like a cultural wrecking ball, a complete bulldozer that won't stop anytime soon. I don't see them abandoning all the money they put into this project so simply. And besides that, they're still using it to dub documentaries unabated. People have just drawn a line in the sand today to protect anime, and that's good. I mean, thank God they've done that, because those fucking trillionaires at Amazon with their fucking space stations and space rockets, they just can't wait to suck away wages from all those fat cat anime voice actors who are buying stuff with all their money, huh? Where are they buying, huh? A Twix, a tuna salad? Come on, they can't buy that. Bezos needs to build a space base. Anyway, I guess at the end of the day, it really comes down to, if you don't like AI, you need to speak up about it and boycott it, because the world is changing. And if people don't speak up, things are going to get worse. Everyone hates AI. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a shill working for an AI company. And if you don't tell these shills off now, AI is going to take over everything and no one's going to have a fucking job. Companies are going to keep forcing this shit down your throat. Coca-Cola just released another horrible AI slop commercial that literally has characters stolen from the DreamWorks movie Kung Fu Panda in it. And they completely got away with it, because who's going to punish Coca-Cola, right? Who's going to boycott Coca-Cola, right? How can you get through the day without your delicious Coca-Cola? Well, no one boycotted the Coca-Cola commercial, but I want to point out that someone released an absolutely amazing diss video to counter that commercial. Now, I can't show you this diss video because it's super violent, X-rated, pornographic, but it is an effective counterpunch at the AI companies, because the only thing good I can say about AI is that AI is so homogenous, so generic, that if Coca-Cola can just use any slop AI factory to release a valueless slop commercial that they made in a day, well, so can you. So why don't you go make one and tell them to fuck off? I guess I'm hoping that eventually, maybe this is just a fad. Maybe this is where we're off. Maybe this is 10 years ago when everyone thought Snapchat was going to replace television. I guess in the end, people need to be really careful to spend their money on real stuff and not AI slop. And time will tell who's going to win the culture war. But at least we're finally seeing countries like Japan and EU start to put up a fight against this stuff, as they realize that it's bad for society and bad for culture in the long term, as it's just removing value from everything.